Hi everyone, it's Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a quick, fun, and super easy pair of bead woven earrings that look like they were done on a loom, but no loom is needed. We'll just be using a big eye beading needle and some 8-pound fire line, really just 36 inches of fire line for this project. We also are going to be using 4 different complementary colors of size 11 Delica beads. You can of course use whatever colors you want, but this is what I like to do for this kind of project. You're also going to be using size 15 seed beads in a color that matches your earring findings. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is thread your needle about 1/3 of the way down your thread, and then string 3 of the first color of your seed beads. So you can see I laid my seed beads out in little piles. That just helps me remember what order they go in. Next, we're going to string 3 more seed beads that are the next pile in the row. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to slide those past the needle and down towards the end of the fire line. Make sure they don't go off the end of the fire line, but you can leave yourself a couple of inches if you want to, but just make sure you've got something to grab onto. Next, we're going to take the needle up through all of the seed beads. You want to make sure that the needle is going through all of those seed beads. Double check to make sure it hasn't escaped one on your route to going through all of them. And then make sure you're holding on to the tail end when you complete this next step. So hold on very tight, don't let go. And what we're going to do is pull the needle out and tighten your work into a little circle. You'll kind of need to adjust the beads so that they lay right on top of one another. So you can either pull the tail end or you can pull the needle end. It might slip a little bit, but once we reinforce this, this will be really secure. So we're going to be making rows like this. You'll notice that the first few rows that we make won't look flat and uniform, but that's okay. So next we're going to take our needle and go through 3 of the next color of our Delica beads. And we are going to go through the 3 beads that the long side, your working thread, is coming out of. So for me, that's that kind of purpley brown color. We're going to also make sure that we're going through the side that doesn't have the thread coming out of it. So make sure to pull that as tight as you can. Like I said, they're not going to lay perfectly uniform for the first pass, but it'll get better and better, especially if you keep your attention tight. So next what we're going to do is take the needle up through those beads that we just added again in order to make sure that the thread is coming out of that row rather than the row beneath it. That way when we go to add the next row, it'll put it where we want it to put it. So we're going to add 3 more beads of the next color of our Delicas, and we're going to go up through those cream colored seed beads. So make sure you're going in the side that doesn't have the thread coming out of it, and tighten your work. So what I like to do is just kind of pinch and pull. So pinch the beads and pull the tail end. And then we're going to go back down through those beads so that we're coming out of that last row, the row we just added. And then we're just going to kind of repeat this same process. So you can vary it if you want, but I like to kind of repeat the colors. I think it creates a nice variance of texture, and you kind of pay attention to the texture changes rather than the color blocking more. So we're going to start again with the next color in the sequence, which is our first one. And we're going to go down through that last row. So we're going through the empty side, the side that our working thread is not coming out of. So again, pull that tight. And you may notice that there are some differences in the way that these beads sit. Generally, that's due to their finish. So matte beads like to sit a little bit tighter on the string. They're not as flexible, so they won't pull as tight together. Opaque seed beads or opaque delicas that have a smooth finish will want to sit a little bit tighter together generally, but it really varies just depending on the type of glass that's used and the finish that's on the beads. But delicas, the cylindrical shaped size 11 seed beads like this, are known in the industry for being some of the most uniform and perfect seed beads, and they're designed for projects like this where you want all of your beads to sit uniform and stacked on top of each other. So if you like these colors that I'm using, you can check out our kits. You can definitely check out the link in the description of this video. And you can find this colorway, which is my personal favorite. We'll also have a couple of other fun colorways available. And then if you want to make your own colorway, we have a very large selection of Delica beads in our website. So you can find the links, like I said, in the video description below. We also put out a ton of new videos all the time. So subscribe to our channel. Our specialty is beginner friendly for the most part, DIY jewelry making projects that kind of border on trendy but are still really unique and original. And we have kits available for all of our projects as well. So we are a full service bead and yarn store in the St. Louis area. At this point, we have been open for over 15 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And we ship all over the world. So if there's anything that you need, just make sure to check out our website. So you can see here that our earring that we're beading now is a lot more wobbly and wiggly, and it's also longer than the other bead or the other earring that we've finished, and that's because we haven't quite tightened it up yet. So I'm going to complete my row of earrings here. I'm just going to stop whenever I'm happy. And then basically what we're going to do is reinforce what we've just done, and that's going to cinch everything down so it looks like the original earring. So how I'm going to do that is when I'm happy with my last row of beads, I am going to just copy everything I've just done, but only backwards. So I'm going to take the needle through the second to last row of seed beads that I put on, and I'm going to pull it tight. I like to keep my fingers on my work to make sure I'm not popping any seed beads. They are glass, so they can break if you're rough. But just make sure that you're careful and make sure that you're pulling the thread out in the exact direction that the whole of the beads are coming or are sitting. And if you don't do that, you'll risk cracking the bead, and you'll also risk distorting your design. So it's important to pull straight out and pull tight, but not so tight that you're going to do damage to your work. So keeping your fingers across your work is a great way to kind of feel what you're doing. And you can see as I'm working here that I'm really making a huge difference in how tight the work is and how uniform the work is. But even still, it's not going to be perfect until you make those final hand-done tweaks just by kind of adjusting the beads with your fingers. Now this stitch that we're doing here is a ladder stitch. You can do this with 2 needles, and you kind of save yourself the work of reinforcing it like this because you get double the thread through it. This is also really similar to like those ladder wrap bracelets that are really popular. And this isn't a new technique by any means, but I just wanted to show you a really basic bead weaving technique that you can really vary to get some really cool, different looks. So you can extend these earrings to be really long statement earrings. I actually made these for my mom. She likes kind of, I don't want to say monochromatic, but complementary colors together, and she likes simple, short earrings with a little bit of interest to them. So I made these for her for Mother's Day, and after I made the first one, I thought, oh, I need to show everybody how this technique is done. So once you get to the very end, that's actually going to be the top of our work. Give both ends a little bit of a tug, and what we're going to do is start our taper with our size 15 seed beads. So make those final adjustments that you need to make I'm rubbing my fingers down all the beads to make sure that everything's uniform. And then you can kind of see how it has snugged everything up. So it's perfect. We can head on to the taper. So we're going to be using size 15 seed beads, which are smaller than the delicas. You can see that I've got, well, you could see, I'm trying to do this all in one take here. You can see that the beads are smaller, and we're actually going to use 4 of them here for the row that matches the 3 delicas. So the 15s are smaller. So I'm going to do this next step exactly the same as I did before. I'm just varying the numbers that we're using. Now, these 15 delicas are rocailles. Or I'm sorry, these are rocailles. They're not delicas. They're size 15 seed beads. It's, you know, a quarantine brain. So what I'm going to do is just the exact same thing that I've done before. I'm going to go through the delicas after I've placed my next row on, and that row is the 4 size 15 seed beads. So again, I'm going to go through the size 15 seed beads again, and as you work, because these are not necessarily cylindrical shaped, you might need to do a little bit more adjustments in order to make them sit how you want them to sit. So go down through the 4 just like we normally would. And now what we're going to do is add 3 seed beads here to start our taper. So what I was going to say before, I got ahead of myself, is that these are rocaille shape or classic seed shape. You can see that they're a little bit more round than the delicas, so they're a little bit more flexible. They also are going to be less hard on your fire line, so it's not as important to make sure that we're reinforcing these as much as we are with the delicas. They have rounded edges. They're not as sharp generally, and also they're just kind of a little bit too tiny to reinforce, especially with a big eye beading needle and with our 8-pound fire line. Now 8-pound is my preferred fire line here. It's my preferred pound test for this project because you don't have to do a lot of reinforcing. It is already a fairly thick fire line. So we're going to go through those 3 seed beads here and pull everything tight. And we're going to kind of adjust those to the middle of the 4 that we have in the row beneath. We'll give you a closer look once this focuses, I hope. These are so tiny that it's pretty difficult for the camera to focus on things that are this small. So we'll get a closer look in a sec. So next we're going to do 2 seed beads. And really the fire line on the edges just kind of hugs the sides. You might think that our work isn't going to sit uniformly and you're going to see a lot of loose fire line, but you don't. It's pretty cool. So we're just going to pull that tight, and notice how it's making a nice taper. But because these are round, and like I said before, they won't sit as uniformly, you might notice that they don't they don't center themselves automatically, but that'll happen when we bring the fire line back down, so no worries. So we're going to go up through the 2 again, and this time we're going to go to just 1. So 1 little teeny tiny size 15 seed bead here. We're going to go up through the 2. Come on. It's so small, and it's so hard to see these little guys when you've got a camera in front of your face separating you from your work. But you won't have that problem at home. So we've got a beautiful taper here. And next what we're going to do is, it's a little bit unconventional, but what we're working with here is really tiny seed beads, and we want to keep the design sleek. So we're going to adjust everything as best as we can to make it uniform, and then we're going to go directly into our earring finding. So you can see here that we haven't used a jump ring, and we're not using a seed bead loop. We're just going to thread right through the whole of the earring finding. So it's important to choose an earring finding that doesn't have a huge gap or one of the decorative ones where the thread could slide off. And that's why it's also important to make sure that we're using size 8 fire line, because it's way less likely to slip through any gaps than size 6 or size 4. So go through the earring finding and then go through the empty side of our seed bead. And we're going to pull it pretty tight, but make sure that the fire line isn't caught anywhere, and make sure that your earring finding is laying in the correct direction. So make sure your fire line is not twisted. So after we've gone through our seed bead, our lone seed bead, we're going to start the reinforcing process again. So we're going to go back through the 2 in the row beneath. And now you'll start to feel that these are a little bit tighter. You will be able to get through them. No worries. It will work unless you have a random bum seed bead, which, can happen, especially if we're using seed beads and not delicas. But our kits always have extra beads in case we pop a seed bead or in case one has a funny hole. So that's nothing really to worry about. So we're just going to keep, repeating the same process, working back down towards your work. And you'll really start to notice how uniform this project becomes once we reinforce and kind of go back through everything. You don't have to do much hand adjustment as long as you're careful with the direction that you pull your thread. And one trick that I can share with you is if you're really having a hard time getting the needle through, you can use a pair of pliers to gently help you pull it through. You don't want to be too aggressive. Generally, when you are having a hard time pulling it through, it's because you've pierced through some of the fire line that's already going through your work. So just take the needle back out a little bit and give it another shot from a slightly different angle, and it should be fine. So you'll notice here that I'm going through the delicas now, and I'm just going to keep weaving back down into the work. And this is to bury my thread, really more than anything, just to make sure that there's no chance that anything could slip out. But it also kind of just, reinforces everything, and it makes it a lot more uniform. So you can see here a better look at how nice and symmetrical that taper is. And we'll compare it to the other one. And if you need to, like I said, you can go in and adjust things with your fingers, but the key is just keeping tight tension, and then when you reinforce, it really fixes everything. So we're going to bury those threads now. We're going to just kind of weave everything back down through. So once you're happy with where you've woven everything through, what I like to do is trim my tail ends off. When you're cutting fire line, you have to pull on it. You have to have tight tension. So notice how I'm pulling on the ends. So I'm just giving it a real tight pull, and then I'm going to execute the cut. You want to make sure that your cutter is not going to crack a seed bead, so be really careful with where you cut. And I'm sorry, I'm at home with my old tools that I've had for 20 years, so my cutters are awful, so I had to find a sharp spot. I misuse these so much. I use them for home projects rather than jewelry projects, but you won't have that problem if you treat your tools nicely. So trim your ends, and you've got a beautiful, really cool, funky pair of woven earrings. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give us a thumbs up. It really helps our channel out. If you have any questions, or if you just want to say hi, please leave a comment down below. Feel free to subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And remember, all the materials we're using today can be found at beadplace.net. You can find links for that in the description beneath this video, as well as links to our social media like Facebook and Instagram, where we post new content all the time. Also, in the description, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, which is just another fun way to support our channel. Feel free to check out the merch beneath this video. We have fun shirts and tote bags. And thank you so much for your support.